Welcome back everyone to the next video. It's been a little while since the last update, a couple of months now. I did take a little while off. You would have seen I was building a few 3D printed trains, so 180, 325, started on a 378, bits and bobs like that. Thanks for the response on that video. It was quite good actually, considering how sort of half a job it was. I only really thought of filming about 3/4 of the way through doing stuff. So yeah, please you all like that. It means that I'll probably be inclined to do more of that in the future. But yeah, as I was saying, I've neglected the layout for a little bit, and I've got a bit of a reason coming up why I need to get it up to scratch. So I'm going to crack on with some jobs I've been putting off. So starting with, I need to ballast this area back here where I put the new track in. So that's the first thing. You see the bridge has been taken out in preparation. I've just scraped up some old bits of grass and rubbish that was there, as well as the old cable hangers. And we've got these nice timber surf ones to go in their place. So I'd better get a move on. So some Humbrol 160 brown paint later. I've painted all the rail sides, which is an agonising job to do. It does make a difference in the long run, but it's an absolute pain. So now we are going to use some grey blend, because when I originally ballasted this, because this is part of the original layout that's unchanged, this is all just grey blend, so I'll use the same stuff. Hopefully once I get some weathering over it, it'll all sort of look all right. I will also mix in some buff ballast with it, which is, I've got it in a random container, but is this colour. You can see the difference, because there was a sprinkle of buff in with this as well. So I'll do the main bulk of it with grey, and then I'll just go over the top with buff to kind of blend it all. But yeah, I pretty much just put it all in a little container like this, and then I just come over and very sparingly put it on top. I don't use one of those ballast spreaders, I reckon they're rubbish. So I pretty much do this, and then I'll basically go along with the finger to kind of get it where I want it, as well as a brush, things like that. I do it a bit of an old school way. Also, ballast doesn't have to be perfect. I work on the railway, I do engineering jobs as I work on freight, so I regularly walk in on ballast. Even freshly laid ballast is never neat. The sleepers are always covered, so the only time you get it is where you've got a piece of track that's very old, been there a long time, and it's not had a fresh ballast drop on it. That's when you'll get it where the sleepers don't have much ballast on them. But generally, you'll find the railway an absolute mess. So people worry about it too much, how neat their ballast is. So honestly, just go for it. So I think I want to change my mind on this. You can see I've just used grey ballast at the minute. I was going to use the buff stuff after, as I said earlier. However, I was thinking I could leave this looking quite clean and fresh, because after all, I did take the scissor crossing out and replace all this track. Now in the real world, when track's replaced, you see big patches of nice bright ballast like this, and it all looks very clean and new in comparison to some old sections. So obviously when this is actually glued down and it dries, it will darken down a bit, but it won't darken down anywhere to this level because this has all been painted. So I think that might be quite a cool idea actually, to leave it looking a lot fresher than the rest. Might be quite fun. And obviously people that know the layout will know that there used to be a different setup at this junction, so this is quite new. So yeah, I'll wet this all with IPA and a bit of washing up liquid mixed in. Then I'll come along with a PVA, obviously use a dropper, drop it all in. Try and go around the point carefully. What I need to do is just manipulate these points and clear a little bit of ballast out, just so that we don't get any ballast stuck in between the blades. And then obviously glue it all down. Hopefully that will look quite good. So moving on from the ballasting, while that dries, the most common question I had on the last video was, how do you get from the car park up to the station building itself? Obviously I can't put a back entrance across here because we've got the bay platform. Now most people obviously would have worked out that you can obviously go up the road, and these roads, the idea was that they would join on somewhere. So there was a method of getting up there, or you'd go around this direction and come back, because obviously at the end of the day you can only fit so much on a layout. However, I did have an idea already in mind for this before people started asking. However, I didn't get around to completing it before that video. This was the idea. Harbour / quayside station steps from Scale Model Scenery. that's what they look like. Handily, they were just about big enough, and this is the idea, that they would fit on the edge of the car park. So you might have noticed I did trim down that palisade fence there. Looking through this way, you'll never see that. I'll just knock some wood over, never mind. You will notice that I've trimmed down the palisade fence in there because it used to come over to here, just so it can go flush. From this side, you can't tell, it's behind a bush, so no one will ever know, apart from everyone that watches this video, but never mind. So again, yeah, that just slots in nice. I have had to add a couple extra steps going up this way, and I've had to sort of bend the railings and stuff to suit. I am tempted to take this railing out as if it's sort of 3/4 relief and you're looking straight down, but I'm not 100% sure yet. If not, I might put a smaller railing in here, just a flat one, and then put another one to match, bend another one up there. Obviously, eventually, I will fill this gap in, but for now, that is the sort of idea. So the car park, you can walk across in your car, you can go up the stairs and around. Naturally, step-free access is a thing these days. However, the whole sort of idea of the layout, it was built just after the war, so that wouldn't have been a consideration. So if you've got a wheelchair, I'm afraid you're stuffed. Yeah, sorry about that, but you can only do so much. The big problem I've got now is how to go about sorting the top out. Now, you will see I have put another girder section in, and I fashioned up this little end wall here. However, it just doesn't look right because there should be a wall under here to support the weight of the girder, because the girder cutting off obviously isn't supporting anything. It's a bit stupid. So what I'm actually going to do is, painfully, I'm going to cut this all out under here. If I take this away, I'm going to cut out, you see where this line is, going across and back. I'm going to cut a square out, and then this wall here, I'm basically going to move it forwards so that the wall to support this part of the bridge will sit here instead. And that will mean that I can remake this little wall a bit more in keeping with this, and it will actually look right. Obviously, I'm going to keep this wall just straight across 90 degrees, unlike these which are staggered, but in the real world, no one's going to really pay that much attention, and it's just the limitations of the space. But yeah, so handily, it's not fixed down yet still, so we can chuck that up there out of the way. And I have already, as you can just about see, chopped through with a Stanley blade. So now I'm going to remove that and then hopefully bring this wall forwards. So there we go, we've made a nice mess in that lovely embankment that me and Ollie created. I've glued some card to the bridge under the side. You can see there I've just glued it on with hot glue because it's never going to be visible. And I've put this little corner piece on. And if I can manage to get it in place with one hand, like so, you can see that although it doesn't fit 100% perfect, we've got a little gap. There's a bit of an overlap because basically this retaining wall sits a little too far this way. However, it doesn't matter because the stairs are going to hide that. So you can see I've had to do this little notch out. The stairs will slot over the top of that and sit there. And then obviously, as you can see, you won't be able to see that little piece down the side. And once that's all in and cladded, that's going to look a lot better. Obviously, I've got to make a new bridge support there, but that is basically going to be the end of the bridge. And if you had taken the layout further this way, it would just be embankment after here. Of course, on this side, you'd have a retaining wall, but there'd be no more girders over the top. Similar to over here, you just have like a sort of fence sort of setup. But yeah, I think that will work a lot better. This is slightly too long, but again, it doesn't matter because it hides the gap a little bit anyway, and I'm going to have to fill this gap up. However, eventually, as I've mentioned in previous videos, there will be an entire fascia that goes over to hide all of this messy stuff, including down there. So I think that's going to work lovely. Obviously, I've got to make this now, and I've got to come around this side and fill this gap in across here, and then I will use my L-cut brick sheets to clad it all and then blend it all in basically. But yeah, happy days. I'm quite pleased with that. It's going to look a lot better. There we are then, bit of paint chucked on it. Both sides. I think that looks pretty good. Obviously I'll now have to blend in the grass embankment. But yeah, I'm quite happy with how that sort of sits. This bit is a bit of a pain, it's not quite perfect. What I will do is shortly, I'm actually going to glue the bridge piece down. I'll leave the station building separate. The only reason I have the bridge able to come out in a minute is so that when I eventually sort the platform tops out, so that I can do this area easily and then just plonk the bridge section down. And I also need to put the girder over the other side, the supporting wall, sorry. So that's another thing I need to crack on and do. Otherwise it looks like this building just sort of floats in mid-air. That's also why it's at a bit of an angle, because once the plasticard is in there, it sort of comes up a little, and I can sort of mess about with it, get it looking level. But yeah, I reckon that works a lot better. Obviously I've got to do the tops now. You can see I've done half of this girder. That's sort of where it's going to sit. Again, that will have to overlap the support column. And then this side, it will just be brick, I assume. So it's no real biggie. But yeah, the bridge definitely looks a lot better like that. It looks like it sort of does actually finish on that sort of pier, if you like. So I'm quite pleased with that. So rather than bore you with the rest of the process, because it's just going to be a case of cutting and gluing bits of card and messing around to get it all to fit, I'll just come back when it's done. So moving on, you can see that I've removed the bridge again, put it up for safekeeping, while I now finally tackle these pretty shoddy looking platforms. So you will remember that the platforms are new, and that was to lower the height of them. So that's why it's been a bit of a pain, because I've had to basically take the Pico platform edging and pretty crudely cut the bottom off so that it is short enough to be the right height. So it won't touch the baseboard when it's in, because that will make it too low. So it will actually be up a mil or two. But I've basically just cut a little bit extra off the bottom just so that I can move it around to where I want it. The idea is I'm going to get my Metro Models 3D printed 484, because Metro Models stuff is ever so slightly wide compared to 00. Why it's sitting on that, I don't know. I'll sort that out. But because of that, that is the widest bit of rolling stock I've got. And so as such, if I can make this fit through the platform without touching the edging, which is what I did here, then we should be good with anything else. So here it took a lot of basic trial and error to get the edging in the right position. And then once I was happy with the position, I got the 3D printed tactile paving that you can see here from TimberSurf. Obviously I had to go so that this was flush with the top of the tactile paving. So once I was happy with the position, as I say, I got the tactile paving, put it here just against, and then I could glue the edging at the right height. So that's what I'm going to do now across the back and across here. I'm going to do these two bits of platform first, and then I'll tackle this area afterwards. Because the idea is, as I think I've mentioned in a previous video, we've got this scene looking nice. So I want to just move on and get this area looking nice, and then basically go on as we do. So I'm going to do that now, cut all the platform edging down, hopefully get it in place, and then over the top I'll go with some plasticard, and then I can give it a nice textured paint finish. So we've got the platform edging in place. Fairly happy with how it sits against the train. I'm just putting the tactile paving on now. You can see I've just glued this piece on. Don't know how well you can see it, because it's not painted, it doesn't really show the detail, unlike this section. So what I'm doing, because there is a gentle curve on this, and obviously it is pretty rigid, so I've just got these electric radiators in the cabin that I use, and I've basically just got it on one of these, leave it on there for a minute or so, and eventually it will get nice and springy to the point where you can bend it round this direction as well, very slightly, and that obviously helps form the curve. So that should do the job nicely. You can see there, yeah, it's got quite a curve in it. It's deceiving to the eye. So here's that platform in one piece then. In the middle is some plasticard, the same thickness as the tactile paving. Obviously it's not cut perfectly, there are gaps, as you can tell. So what I'll do is I'll go over it and I'll mask it off, and then I'll apply some filler just in the gaps so it's all nice and sort of even. The reason I've used plasticard in the middle because I did think about using just a very thin skim of filler in the middle of the whole thing. However, when I go to add things like lighting, stuff like that, if I have to drill into it, then it's going to potentially crack, as well as down the line, it could crack with weather fluctuations and things like that. As I've learnt my lesson before, so I'm doing it this way. I think it might be a bit better. Now I've just got to move on to the rear platform. So there's those two bits of platform in one piece. You can see I've taped off the tactile paving now. I'm going to mix up a little bit of filler, and then I'm going to go around the edges, just around where the tactile paving is, just to blend it all in nicely so that when I come to paint it, it's not too obvious. So there's one with filler over it. It's a bit dusty from sanding. And here's one after sanding it off and just chucking a bit of grey primer over it. So I'm pretty happy with that. There's a couple tiny imperfections. You can see that one just there and just here. However, once they're painted, you shouldn't really be able to notice them. I might at some point go back and just fill in this and this as well, just to sort of tidy it up. But for now, I want a bit of a time crunch. I want to get the platforms looking all right, so I don't want to spend too long. They take long enough to do as it is. So I'm happy with that for now. So once this grey primer is dry, I will mask up and paint the textured paint on the platform surface. And I'll also do the yellow line. And then I need to do a concrete colour for the edging. So there's one platform all painted up apart from the concrete edges. You'll notice the textured tarmac finish. I've gone for this time over paving slabs, and I'm really pleased with it. And how I do it is Rust-Oleum textured paint, aged iron. It's the same way I did the road on Breakspear. However, the road, I wanted it a little less coarse, so I came back after it was all nice and dry and just went over it with some wet and dry paper quite gently just to take the edge off. I might do it on this because it's a bit rough like sandpaper, but we'll see. On that subject though, a lot of people do this with sandpaper. However, if you do it this way, it looks a lot nicer, it feels a lot nicer, and you don't get any horrible joins, because there was a join in the middle there. And you can see that with a little bit of filler work and some nice paint, you can't even tell. It's the most satisfying feeling in the world. Not that you can do it one-handed. Ooh, yeah. There's the platforms in place then, just to give you an idea. And I've gone over this one with some Tamiya weathering powder, which is this stuff. Just the sooty one, and then a tiny little bit of rust on the top, just to test. But you can't really tell because of the textured surface. So to weather this at some point, I might just give it a slight blow over with the airbrush. But for the edging and the tactile paving, it looks really good. So I went over that with, like I say, with the soot. If I can open this, you can see the little sort of brush. I used this end on the tactile edging, and then I used the little brush on the edge, sort of concrete here. And that did quite a nice job. On the top, it was a bit heavy, so I did come back afterwards with a little bit of IPA on a cloth and just gently took a little bit away. But that's left it looking a lot more uniform than it was when I first put it on. And again, it's took the edge off, so I quite like the look of it now. If you compare the look of that to the platform at the back, which I haven't touched yet, I think you'll agree it's a lot nicer. It's just toned it down and given it a bit of variation along its length. But yeah, I'm really pleased with that. So this is sort of how I'm doing it. I'm, as I say, getting this Tamiya weathering powder. But I'd do a makeup, not that I've ever tried it. I'll have to ask Charlotte for that. But I'd imagine it's a pretty similar sort of applicator, isn't it? Little foam sort of thing. Yeah, I'm just going along, dirtying it up like this. I'm not being too perfect with it because I don't want it to be perfect. I want it to have a bit of variation to it. So I'm just going backwards and forwards like so. What this is doing though, the main thing is it's picking out the tactile dots on the paving, because with it just painted yellow, it sort of blends in quite easily, if you can sort of get what I mean. So that just makes it all kind of stand out. If you look at it compared to over here to there, it looks a lot better. So that's the platform all dirty. I'm pleased with how that looks. However, as I said earlier, the other one, I went over the edging with a little bit of IPA. So I've just got this in my finger. That's a spray bottle of IPA. And then I'm just going to gently go over like this. If I do it so it won't fall on the floor, it'd help. You can just see there, it takes the edge off. We need a little bit more on there, so I'm going to do this. You can see there it comes off nicely. So I'll finish that off and then I'll chuck the platform back in place. So I've chucked some weathering powder over the rear platform now as well. As you can see, I've chucked the station build and all that back in just to get an idea how it's going to look. Pretty pleased with it. Now on to the next thing. I need to think about station buildings. Now I did want to get away from using these. However, I was a bit stuck on what else to use. Basically, I don't want it all to be just chuck it on the layout buildings that you can get off the shelf. So that's why I wanted to get rid of these, because you see them on other layouts. Other people have got them on various different layouts. So I want to do something different. However, the station building is all sort of loosely based on Eastcote or Rayners Lane, one of those sort of stations. And if you ever look at those, the bottom of the stairs, the canopy basically continues from the bottom of the stairs with these sort of style buildings. Obviously, it's a bit different because of the canopy, but it's the same base. So I am a bit stuck really. So I think what I am going to do is I will reuse these, because it is a bit of a shame just to chuck them out or chuck them up for sale when I've put lights in them and things like that. So I will reuse them. However, the plan is I'm obviously going to have to change the roofs. I'm going to have to cut this side off so that it will go basically flush against the rear. So then for the rear platform, I'm going to have to work it out, because I've got two sets of these basically. I'm going to have to work it out so that this is on the baseboard join here. This one obviously butts straight up against there. And then I'll basically have to make the extra piece of roof to go across onto the station, onto the staircase, sorry. So as I say, I'll have to cut the back off of them both. I'll have to go and get me another one of these, because this is for this side. Just because it's got the sign and stuff. Not that it really matters actually, I could probably use that. But yeah, basically go cut that off, extend the canopy, and as well as that I need to shave it down a little, because the platform curves inwards. You can see that the canopy is actually overhanging, and I don't want that. So I'll have to shape the canopy with a bit of a curve with the multi-tool. That's going to be hard to work out. Extend it, and then build a brick wall for behind to go from here over to here, and hopefully that will look all right. So I tried chopping a canopy up. Being resin, they don't really like being messed about with too much, so it all went Pete Tong. So I'm gonna have to scratch build it, I think. So I've decided this is 3mm plasticard, so this is plenty thick enough for a roof. I have got this to the same shape as the platform, give or take. It just it won't push quite back because of the grass, but that is cut around the platform edge, so it'll be the exact same width as the platform. That's how long the first bit is going to be, because that's basically as long as I could get it. And that is going to go across the top here. So I've put the station building back in place, and I've just rested it on top. So I'm going to draw around this little bit, because the building is at an angle. Obviously it won't be 90 degrees against the plastic, so I'll draw around that. Hopefully that will then slot in around the top here, and then I can build off that, and fingers crossed I can make do with these sort of building pieces for the support. If not, I will have to build something from scratch. The only reason I really wanted to use those is because I wanted the round end pieces. But again, I don't know if I'll be able to cut the roof off without buggering it up. I did try and sort of rush a bit, so it's probably why it snapped. But in any case, I probably would have had to do a new roof. So that's where we're at. So you can see the idea here. This is 3mm plasticard, and it comes out of the footsteps, and it'll go along and probably finish in one of these round buildings that I'll chop up. However, naturally, it can't finish and be overlapping the board join, so I'll have to think of another idea there. I am thinking in the center, so the one that I broke, chop the roof off completely, and probably fill this in and maybe open the front up, and then that can sit in the center as a center support, and I can have a bench in there or something like that. But obviously, as you can see, I'm gonna have to chop quite a bit off. I don't know if you can tell the height difference, but that's gonna be the main nightmare, is chopping that off flush or square, whatever, without completely ruining the whole thing, which was probably what will happen. It might even be easier just to make something new out of plasticard and then just clad it and do it a similar style. Not 100% sure yet, but yeah, that'll be the kind of idea. Whether I make it a bit longer or not, I don't know. It would be nice if it finished sort of out here somewhere, but there we are. I'll have to sort of have a think, have a play, and then see where we get to. So there you go, I managed to cut that one down. So you can see it looks a lot better with one in between. It sort of supports it as well. It's not perfect, I still need to shave it down just a tiny bit more, because you can see at the back there is a gap. So it's just sitting slightly proud. But I think that's going to look quite good. I think that'll work. After all, this side, it doesn't matter if it's a bit shorter, because this is, if you like, the less important platform. The main platform is obviously the centre one, because it's got the two roads into London, so that'll be the busier one. So that will have a more substantial canopy, if anything. So I might bring that canopy out further and just have that as a shorter one. But I think that's going to look quite good. So I think now the plan is to cut this one. So I'll have to cut this down the back here. And then if I am going to put the end piece here, I'm obviously going to have to shorten it as well. So that's going to be a bit of a pain, but it's nothing we can't do with the multi-tool. Great bit of kit. I definitely recommend you all get yourself one. It's amazing what a bit of paint does on the brickwork, isn't it? So that's all had a mortar wash now. This centre support, I've actually cut the rear of it off. If I take it out, I've cut the rear of it off and just stuck it on like this. And then I've put brick on the inside as well. The ceiling, don't worry about that for now. I'm going to sort that. But the idea is then I'm going to put a bench seat inside, so that in effect you could come down the stairs of the station and you could just go and sort of hide away in there out of the wind if you didn't want to go in the waiting room. So that's going to look pretty cool. Obviously it needs lights underneath as well. But the reason I say don't worry about the ceiling is because if you look on this piece, you've got the edging, which is only slightly thicker than this roof section, which I can sort easily with another small thin layer of plasticard. But then underneath, towards the centre, it thickens up. So I'm going to get some more plasticard and try and replicate that the whole way along. And hopefully that will blend it all in nicely. But for now, I'm pleased with that. I think that looks really good. It's about as good as it was going to get for this platform. It follows the curvature of the platform nicely as well, very subtly, so you don't really notice the curve in the brick. But yeah, I'm really happy. Obviously, as I say, I've got to sort the top of the roof and all that sort of stuff and blend it in. I have cut down this end piece to suit the length of the baseboard, you can see there, because basically when I take the baseboard apart, I don't want that to get knocked if the baseboard is on its face. So that's why that's been cut down, and it's just the right sort of length. I might have to shave another little tiny bit off it in the future, but if I do, I'll see when it comes to it. Obviously the glazing and stuff I've taken out just while I was cutting it, so that'll go back in. This end as well, I've put a little curve on this. This is the same radius as this. I've just done that just to sort of neaten it up so it's not a hard edge, just so it kind of blends in the same as the other end really. But yeah, I'm really pleased. I think that's going to look cracking. It's the right sort of design that I want, and it's a lot better than the off-the-shelf buildings. So there's our station canopy in one piece. It's all glued together. There's some card on the back just to give it a bit of added strength, some very thick card. I will go over this at some point with a whole brick sheet just to tie it all in, and that end piece there, I'll put a gutter there so you can't tell where the join is. So that'll be good as gold. You can see there the curve now to match the platform. So what I've done since the last clip, obviously I've glued this on, bonded it on. I've also got rid of the stepped part under here. I've sanded all that down. I've made some stepped pieces to go in between to match the profile there. So there's one there and there's one here, and I've curved that down just to suit the curve on the outside. So that's looking good. It's all glued in, obviously. This is all filled in now. There was obviously a hole here because this window used to carry on all the way back round. Obviously, now that this is only one-sided, I had to fill all that in. So I'm pretty pleased how it's come out. It's not obviously perfect, it never will be, but I'm quite happy with that. The end window I'm going to leave as is, so that people in the waiting room can look out onto the greenery behind. It's not really going to be an issue, and then I'll have a regular fence starting from here coming outwards. But as you can see, I've not filled round the creases in that sort of filler piece. I mean, it's nice and flush, but I've not gone around it with filler. I've not gone too mad, because when you look through the window, you can't tell. There's just no point in bothering. But yeah, it's all nice and strong now, and obviously it slots into place nicely on the platform. Sits nice and flat as well. So what I've got to do now is get the filler out. So I'm actually going to use P38, I believe. Where is it? I've got it here somewhere. Here it is. I'm going to use Isopon P38 body filler, which is for cars. You might have seen me using P40 before for the canal scene on the last video. This is a similar sort of product. It's for cars. Nice, smooth body filler. It hardens in about 10 minutes, so you've not got a lot of time to work with it. It depends how much hardener you put in. However, because it hardens in 10 minutes, it means it's not going to delay you, because if you use model filler, then I don't see the point in it anyway over this, but you're also waiting a day for it to dry. So this stuff's really good, and it doesn't leave many sort of dimples and pinholes and things like that. It's pretty good stuff. So I'm going to tape up what I don't want to get filler on with some blue low-tack masking tape, also handy for cars. And then I'm going to use some filler in all the little creases and stuff. So mainly these sort of areas, up here, along here, in here, and obviously I'll put some on the roof itself to even out the roof profile, and then I'll sand all that flat, and then basically give it a good paint on top for the roof section. Then it's pretty much good to go, apart from lights and things like that. So yeah, let's crack on. So that's that then. The filler's on. You can see we've got a nice big thick amount of it where the join is, both sides. That should, once it's all sanded down, hide all that. We've got it in between the little creases as well, where the gaps were in the plasticard, hence the tape, because I don't want it going on the brickwork. So I'll peel the tape off now, and then once it's all dried, in about sort of 10-15 minutes, I will sand it all down. There we go then, we are all sanded down, ready. You can see the roof's now nice and smooth. The joins on the inside, I've got filler in them. You can see there, it's not too bad. I mean, it's never going to be 100% spot on because I'm lazy. However, it's an old building, so I'm going to use that excuse. It's never going to look perfect. But I'm pretty pleased with that. So I'm going to mask it up, and I'm going to paint the roof area. Or I'll paint the top with textured paint and then go over it. And then the underneath, I'll probably just hand paint, to be honest. But yeah, pretty happy. So moving on, the building is now painted and in position, and you can see it looks really good. I'm proper pleased with that. I've used that Rust-Oleum textured paint on the roof to give it that nice textured finish. Obviously, it's the same current as the tarmac, so what I'll do at some point, I'll airbrush some black over this, so it's a bit more like the roof up here, just so it's a bit more matchy-matchy. But in any case, this needs sorting at some point and texturing, so it's no biggie, I've got loads to do. But yeah, I'm really pleased how it's come out. You can see it, I've painted the underneath in a concrete colour. If I get the camera down there, that way you can see it. See, it looks pretty good. It all sort of blends in nice. I've added a couple of CCTV cameras. And you can see there where that step was in the building. We've continued that along, and that looks really, really good. So I'm very pleased with that. So yeah, that's one done. Now for the other one, which is probably, I thought at the time slightly less difficult. However, plans are afoot, and I've got a lot of these buildings left over. So I've got these two. I've got this one here, which has got my departure boards on it, which I wanted to keep. I don't really want to move them, but I can if I have to. I've got one of these pieces, and then these two down here as well. So as I think I've mentioned previously, this obviously is the main platform with the main sort of services, because this is just sort of Chiltern and stuff and Met stuff going to Denham, so it's only one stop more. But yeah, this will be the busy platform, so I wanted a bit of a longer platform. Now, in reality, most of the stations I've seen, such as Eastcote, Rayners Lane, all that sort of, Ickenham even as well, all that sort of style, they all have the buildings ending in the same place. However, at the end of the day, it's a model railway. I do what I want. So the only thing is I want to try and keep it sort of matching this if I can. So I'll need a bit of a building here. I'll need something in this style here. And then I want to continue on a little bit more that way, just to sort of where these are. So my thinking initially was to have this piece here and then basically cut the underneath of this off and put it in this position as the support so it matches the other side. However, I'm then not happy with the fact that this doesn't look the same. So what I'm going to do is, because luckily I've got 2 of these left over and this one has been through the walls anyway, I actually worked out that if I cut these along this edge where the sort of cut already is, if I do that on both and put them back to back, they will equal roughly the same size as this, and that gives me a nice square waiting room. So that's the first thing to do. I'm going to tackle that, glue that together, plonk that on and see how that looks, and we'll basically build outwards from there. So that's now joined together, as you can see. The line isn't too bad. I mean, I'm quite pleased that at the bottom it's pretty flush, because that's the visible bit, because over this sort of area there will be a sign similar to that anyhow, and then up the top I can sort of hide it away anyhow because it'll be under the canopy. So probably some lights and stuff will be in the way anyway eventually, so I'm quite pleased with that. But obviously, as I say, that now follows the design of the platform opposite, other than being square. So you can see, if I can get it to focus on that bit, you cover that half, then they're the same if you look. But then obviously, instead of the round piece, we've got it squared off. So I'm thinking that, and then I'm thinking this one in this position to match where the pillar is over there. However, I think I'll leave these top pieces in. At some point, if I decide to, I can always make another one of these up with brick paper and stuff like that, the L-cut stuff that I've been using, to match like a sort of thinner one to go here, just so that they look even. But I don't think that's going to be a problem anyway. I don't think it looks too bad. And then the other problem I've got is the spacing of them means that I can't really just have these like this, because it's going to look weird. If you look at that, then it looks a bit odd, because you've got that nice big space in between these two, and then these two are really closed up. So I'm going to have to bring these out, which is going to involve a lot more fiddling with the roof. So they're going to have to sit something sort of like that, and then that'll look pretty good. It's about just under twice the length of platform 1, but I think that's as good as it's really going to get. The advantage of doing this is I don't have to modify this, as I said before, because it's obviously both sides, so it'll be a lot quicker in that respect, apart from the fact that I've got to do basically a complete roof. But at least it's in 2 halves, so it won't be a massive structure in one go, or bending in the middle. I will have to extend this roof out just slightly, because as you can see on that side, there is a gap between that and the end of the board, so I want to have the same gap on this side. So I'll just extend that roof out with a square bit of plastic card, and then hopefully that'll butt up nicely against the piece that I put on this side, so that when the platforms both are together like this, then there won't be a big join. But yeah, I think that's where we're at. So I suppose I better crack on. There's the first little filler bits in the roof then, cut to shape, size, whatever. You can see there the sort of idea that it's going to do the same as that one and curve around into the steps. I would have carried it on down the side, but I don't know, if that's doing something different. But yeah, so that's looking okay. Obviously there's a lot more to do, because the thickness needs building up and it needs strengthening up and stuff like that. But we're getting there. So I thought I'd do something different now. Put my London Underground A-stock luggage racks on the wall. Thought it'd be an ideal place for Milo to watch over us while we're hard at work, but instead he decided just to attack everyone, as you can see. Anthony's bodging. Got to ballast this section, and we can't be bothered to use plaster cloth. Ran out of masking tape, so the bodge guns come out. Oh, it's great, isn't it? Look at the state of it. Yeah, while that's going on, we're nearly there with the station. As you can see, it's in one piece. So we've got a lot of filing to do, make it all look right, and then get the car body filler out, because we are bodge jobbers. It should look pretty good, this bit. How not to build a model railway. That precision. But to be fair, if you get any bits like that where it bubbles up, you just spray a bit more IPA on there. See how your card works getting on with all the bits. Hopefully that'll all soak in. Fingers crossed. We'll soon find out. I might do another pass over the track itself though, just to make sure. So this has all been static grass now. It's the finishing touches. We've got Salt Bay here. That's it. We like that, God. That'll be £3,000, please. Just doing the little finishing touches. This is an Ollie special with the little red and yellow pots for plants.
Just without Ollie.
Just without Ollie, yeah. We got the better looking version.
Leave a note in the comments.
You can see there, this embankment's looking quite nice now. Obviously, you've got to do the other side, but because it's all wet, we don't really want to ruin the ballast and get it all over the arches. So it's going to have to do for now. Top job. This is a work of art. Look at that mask stuff here. Good enough. Bosh. And there we are then. There is the second station building in. Well, half of it anyway, as I've got to do this half still at some stage. So that will be probably the next project, maybe the next video. We'll see how we get on. And yeah, I'm really pleased how this has come out. So you can see we've got this customized waiting room here, the double-ended one. So it all sort of matches with the other side, it fits in nicely. And then we've got this piece in the center again to match up with the wall that's over there. When there's a roundel down here, it's going to look plenty good enough. It does make me wonder whether to build up another one of these sort of sections to go over the top of this. Obviously it only have to be half the width, but just to kind of tie it all in a bit more. But I'll have a think about that while I'm sort of mulling over what to do next. You can see here we've got obviously a join line between these two where they were attached together. Down the road at some point I will try and sort this out a little better so it's a little less noticeable. I might even put a bench seat in front of that as well, which will also hide it somewhat. The plan for the top, you can see I've used the textured paint on it. It is obviously at the minute the same colour as the tarmac, so what I'll do, I think I mentioned it on that side, but I'll paint it all black just so it differentiates it from the tarmac itself. And then yeah, maybe in the next layout update I'll get the rest of the platform done. Pleased also with how this section is starting to look now. As you saw, we had Anthony here rattling through doing some bits. We basically speed built all this. The track was already down, so the rest of it was ballasted, and then all the sort of filler pieces made of card just to block off the ballast and scatter going down the side was all put in. Static grass was all done. It's all glued down. That was all done last night at the time of filming this anyway. But yeah, you can see Anthony was hard at work in the previous clips. The reason I wanted to get this done is because if you're getting a nice shot of something coming across the viaduct / bridge sort of area, then that big bit of just bare baseboard really was ruining the shot. So that's going to look really nice now, and you can park something on the incline while something else comes past. It's just going to add to the scene really well. But that also means that we now need to focus our attention underneath here on the little freight yard. So that'll be another thing to maybe tackle in the next video. Start getting that track down, get some ballast in, going from there really. But overall, that scene, really cool. I absolutely love it now. Back over to this side, you can see that now all the ballast is dry and that. I've cleaned all the track off. We've had a good test run with the S-Stock and it will run through there quite happily. Obviously it needs weathering down to tone down the colour of the ballast somewhat and make the track look a bit grubby. But it's another job for another day. For now, pretty pleased with the progress, getting that done, getting the station side a bit more sorted out, and then getting over there done. So that just leaves me to say thank you for watching. Thanks for subscribing and leaving all your comments down below, as you always do. I'm always blown away by the response these videos get, hence I keep making them. So yeah, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for all watching and keeping me motivated to do this. I'd like to say a thank you to Anthony as well. He's helped me with a couple little bits here, just basically keeping me company and causing a mess, but in the right way. So yeah, Anthony, if you're watching this, cheers mate. And as well as that, one other little thing is I did make a mention of something special which was coming here, which was the reason I wanted to get a little section of the station sorted out for some photos and things. That will all be revealed Thursday night at the time this video goes out. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to be something really cool that you're not going to want to miss. For now then, as I said, thank you for watching. And at the time this video goes out, I will be at Ali Pali the week after. So if you're there, come and say hello. And also keep an eye out for that Thursday night video, which is something special. So I will hopefully see you there. Bye for now.